Welcome to Between the Rig, a podcast hosted by Pushbox CrossFit. We're all about fitness and bringing you direct opinions wrapped in humor and a touch of, did they really just say that? We aim to help you understand more about coaching, gym ownership, and what it takes to get the most out of your fitness, mindset, and lifestyle, both inside and outside the gym. Let's get into it. All right, welcome to Between the Rig, a podcast hosted by Pushbox CrossFit, and I'm here with Big Tree.
What's up?
And Dr. Axe.
Hello.
I appreciate you both joining this morning edition.
Yeah.
Coffee talk here. Mm-hmm. We had some scheduling snafus, but we made it work. It's a Tuesday. It's rainy.
I actually like this probably better than...
This is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're learning.
I don't mind this. Yeah. I'm a morning person.
Yeah.
Earlier the better.
I'm a morning person for the most part.
I just want to say, I think for both, I don't want to speak for you, but Josh, I appreciate that you dressed up. Pink bandana.
It's a new thing. Yeah.
It looks good, man.
Yeah.
You can put. Are you in your bandana era?
Yeah. I was in the era for a little bit, and I got out of the era, and now I'm back in it.
Back into it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Can I say how much I just fucking hate all this Gen Z talk?
Let's hear it.
That's it. I just don't like it.
What's the Gen Z talk?
It's just all those things like eras and like
Era's that's
clap this or no cap or whatever that
no
stuff
cap,
is.
But era,
it's
that's a real word.
It's not like they invented words. They're taking words that already existed and just smush them together in things that don't make sense.
Well, how are they using era?
I'm in my blah, blah, blah era. They're not referring to like dinosaurs.
I got you.
I think that's acceptable. I think that's nitpicking. No, the no cap part, that doesn't make any sense.
It's like
out of us three who would agree with that,
life,
I'm not surprised you're okay with this lingo.
That's acceptable. But the no cap where you had to like define it, no caption. Like,
I constantly message Julia Davis and I'm like, will you decode this for me? She's like, with pleasure. And then I'm like, I still don't get it.
Yeah, I've had some people say some things. I'm just kind of like, I don't know what that is. I'm going to have to Google this later when you're not around.
Do we need to have like a Gen Z interpreter, like a sign language interpreter when we're like...
Julia or Anna just always, I'm like, hey, you're up.
Yeah.
What'd they just say? Yeah. All right, guys. Well, again, thanks for being here. This podcast, I would say, is about nothing.
Perfect.
In general, it's about fitness and health and awesomeness. But today's episode, I thought it'd just be fun to take some questions that we got from the members in the community and things we just kind of always talk about, I think just naturally, that we find ourselves kind of getting in fun debates about, or we talk about in coaches meetings or things like that, everywhere from gym etiquette to programming, coaches, the way they should or shouldn't follow the gym programming, just things like that. So I kind of I have a list of a bunch of questions. Maybe we'll get to them all, maybe we won't. Just kind of like, hey, here's the question. What's your thoughts and opinion? And then we move on. So it doesn't need to be like one long 60-minute thing on one topic. But I can't start anything without some questions of the day.
Let's hear them.
This is for you guys. We'll start simple here. Quick, NSYNC or Backstreet? Josh?
NSYNC.
Adam?
Kind of neither, honestly. I didn't.
That's a lie.
Play the game, Adam.
That's a lie.
I wasn't the boy band kind of guy back. I grew up on a farm. Like I didn't even, like.
Don't ruin this for me.
I'm sorry. Backstreet. I'll just to combat him.
Oh, it's already starting off real spicy here. Snatch or clean and jerk? Adam?
Clean and jerk.
Snatch.
Oh, you too?
Yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to give you three options. You get to keep two. You have to get rid of one. Right? Both for the sake of enjoyment and participation. All right. So keep two, get rid of one. Music. So meaning you can't listen to music. You can't play an instrument. If music's on at the gym, like your ears wouldn't hear it. Like just music is void now. All right. Sports. You couldn't play sports. You couldn't watch sports. Anything like that. And then alcohol/drugs from beer, wine, weed, LSD, crack cocaine.
This is easy. Buy music. I need sports and I need drugs
crack
and
cocaine.
alcohol.
I think I would.
If that's my only option, I consider it, but probably not. But I mean, I need some kind of outlet.
So you're getting rid of music.
Yeah, I'm never like everyone likes music, but I'm not like a music connoisseur. Like it's there, and when I'm working out, it's like I don't even know what's playing anymore. So
I'm gonna agree with Josh also.
What?
Everybody knows I love drugs.
Yeah,
and I love sports, and so like I love competition. I also love drugs. I'm an advocate for
I was maybe gonna
the legalization.
Guess.
I also love music, but like
I thought maybe you were gonna lean no more sports.
Oh no, like I love sports.
Okay.
I love competition. Like that's why I do CrossFit still. That's why, like I'm always trying to do something.
I don't want to.
I'd still be competitive if I had the time or could train enough to do things.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Well, I don't want to throw a curveball. I'm getting rid of drugs and alcohol.
Yo, I know.
Weird.
I was about to say, for someone that doesn't do either. Yeah.
I had a
I've been out with you.
old fashioned Sunday night because it was celebrating my dad's birthday, which is today. And I probably had like 2 sips. I'm like, I am feeling this.
How old's your dad today?
77.
Damn.
Yeah.
Nice. How's he doing?
Good. I'm actually like training him like once a week.
Wonderful.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Which is like, I think especially, I don't know, like father, son. I feel like older generations didn't really have fitness for the sake of just like,
no,
I don't know, doing it. It was like you had to do it for a reason or part of like a sports team or I don't know. So I think it's really cool to kind of now be an adult to have that opportunity with them and the kind of like walls of vulnerability of like the son telling you what to do. It's actually been going good. Like I'll give him little goals on the bike or the rower. It's like, oh, can you go sub 215 split? And like he'll push for it. I'm like, hell yeah! Like it's fun.
Yeah.
You know, like
Was your dad into sports?
Oh yeah, my dad's big into sports.
Yeah.
But I want to know that. So you've been in the gym when my dad's been in the gym.
Oh yeah.
And I know when I try to cue him or coach him on certain stuff, it's like pulling teeth. He was like, I want to do this, and then I try to teach him. He's like, fuck this, I'm not doing this. And it's like, what?
Yeah. Well, if you ever met my dad, he does not shy away from opinions. And sometimes I feel like he just likes fucking with people. He's like, do you know 2 + 2 = 4? He's like, actually, there's this theory out there that says you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And that math is not real. And it's actually 0. And I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah.
Just go with it.
Mm-hmm.
I was cueing him on like when to breathe, embrace versus the kind of the in and outs of the inhale, exhale versus the up and down of movements. And he's like, I don't know if that's right. I'm like, you're right. What the fuck do I know?
Sure. Yeah.
15 years of this. Yeah. And then he did it. He's like, oh, that actually feels right.
Yeah,
so he's him, but he's less than actually I thought. I was for myself. I'm like, this is going to go one of 2 ways.
You're going to pull out the rest of your hair?
It's been going out. It's been pretty fun. It's been pretty special for us.
It's been a little different for me and my dad because my dad's like who got me into working out and fitness and taught me everything. And now that I've taken a different branch, he was old school, Gold's Gym, Venice Beach, meathead, bandana.
Bringing it back. Bringing it back.
Yeah. This is an honor to him.
Yeah.
So now for me, like knowing more than he does and showing up a different round of fitness, I think it's I wouldn't say hard, but he's just very questionable about everything that I try to teach him.
Yeah, well, my dad is like very academic based, like multiple degrees, was a professor. So I think anytime you try to hit him with potentially like, hey, here's information I might have that you may not.
He wants citations.
Yeah.
He's like,
show me your fucking sources.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I want the receipts.
Is that credible?
Yeah. But anyway, so mainly just kind of wanted to go over multiple topics and just have a fun time, either agreeing or debating, whatever it may be. So I kind of want to start with some of the questions that were messaged to us. This was from someone who has a name. I just don't know if they want me to say it, so I should probably ask
We'll leave it anonymous.
Yeah, it's a person though. Yeah, it's not like AI.
Perfect.
Quote, I'd love to hear more about each of your guys' workout recoveries and what you feel has been the most beneficial and how that's changed over the years. So I'll just kind of throw these out and either, Adam, we'll start with you.
Okay.
We locked eyes. You can start.
Yeah. We can keep locking eyes if you wish.
Goddamn right.
A lot of people ask recovery, right? Like it's a big one because you get sore, you get tired, maybe you don't feel as fresh the next day, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I tell most people, I'm like, one, what's your calorie intake look like? How's that go? What's your split on macros? Obviously you need a lot more protein or carbs, and I know you guys have done a nutrition talk, so we're not going to dive into any of that, but like sleep.
That podcast was audio shit.
I feel
like you're just,
it was fine.
Really ribbing me here.
I listened to 2 minutes of it and I was like,
I think I listened to the whole thing.
Did you? How?
Yeah. Like,
kudos.
I liked what we were saying, but it was
the information was really good. I thought you guys did a really good job with it, but
Thanks,
yes,
Adam.
the audio was much more like wah, 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 wah.
Yeah.
But I think sleep, like most people just don't get enough sleep or they spend too much time on their phones before they go to bed. So their sleep is kind of interrupted. That's a big one. And then just like spending, 20 or 30 minutes, like doing some stretching, like foam rolling, things like that. Like that's kind of a generic kind of like, hey, this will be good for you kind of recovery. That's what I do for the most part. I do some breath work as well. Like I really like that. It just kind of calms my like brain and my nerves and things like that before I go to bed. So that's kind of my thing.
Well, I mean, even if you go to any of the CrossFit seminars and you go online, you can easily find this image. It's kind of like the hierarchy pyramid. In the bottom is nutrition. Above that is metabolic conditioning. Above that is gymnastics. Above that is weightlifting / throwing. And above that is like sport specific. But really, even kind of below that nutritional base on that triangle, kind of expanded even wider, but kind of in these like ... lines, is sleep. So I'm curious. You mentioned those things. Now let's add a personal touch to that. These are the things we should be saying. Do you feel like you're doing a better job at that? And if you were like in your 20s to now,
as I've got, oh my God,
like what was the recovery process, let's say back then, to find that how you will, and then what is that now, and has it changed?
Let's preface this with that I was probably like an extreme alcoholic through my 20s.
All right.
And so my sleep probably was not as good as it is now.
HRV real low if Whoop was if Whoop was a thing back then.
So I was in the service industry for about 15 years. I pretty much drank to blackout most nights. I took Tuesdays off. From blacking out.
Okay.
And I would still wake up at about 7 o'clock to go to the gym every day.
Ugh.
Like there was times I would just like do a hard leg day with a 2-day hangover.
Youth is neat.
Is amazing.
You can get away with a lot of shit.
Yeah. But like my recovery back then was complete and total dog shit. I would, when I was working until 4 or 5 in the morning, I would still get up and go to the gym in the morning, because I was just like, my body was like, you're awake at 8 a.m. Like time to go.
What was that kind of like? I should probably knock this shit off.
Through
Through the lens of I'm not recovering that well for the sake of feeling good and then performing well in the gym or sports or whatever.
It wasn't even that. It was actually just like my priorities kind of shifted of like, okay, I really like to feel good. Like that kind of switched.
You had that moment of adulting?
Yeah. It was more that. It was just like, I do like to feel like, fresh in the morning.
Yeah,
I don't want to wake up and feel like complete and total dog shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of a big switch. I would say that that happened a few years ago. Yeah, I've, like that's kind of where I'm at. Where like, like sleep's important, like those things. But that's kind of been my big one where it's like reduction of alcohol intake at night. I think I drink maybe once a week, twice a week at the most. There might be the occasional like, oh, there's a friend in town, go get a cocktail with them, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's like, on a Friday.
Yeah.
So
Josh, what about you? Any differences from what you used to do to now, or anything you're consciously focusing on more and you're actually feeling the benefits?
I mean, when I was in my 20s, I only worked out Monday through Friday, and that was I didn't really start CrossFit until
Only Monday through Friday.
Well, it was
it's a difference for a lot of people. They're probably like, "What? You're insane." And to a lot of us, it's like, "Oh, that's like a chill week."
Yeah. And I only worked out Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday Friday night was bar. Saturday was college football, drinking. So my recovery wasn't recovering from working out.
This was when you were 16?
No, this was up until probably 29.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I still have weekends like that every once in a while where I'm just like, oh, that's bad.
I mean, there's evidence in our WhatsApp group chat.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's it's a work in progress.
Okay.
It's a work in progress.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
We're all just trying to get by.
Yeah.
Doing
the best we can.
Yeah.
But nowadays it's, I try to be a little bit more focused on my recovery, and it's if I'm playing sports, baseball, it's usually I'm playing some kind of, baseball, which is more of an active recovery,
But I've noticed sometimes if you have long stretches of games, you will not actually do the gym as hard. Is that because it's like, man, I'm noticing my body can't take it? Both, or because baseball is not a year-round thing, I really want to do as well as I can. Therefore, I don't mind kind of, quote, sacrificing the gym intake because I don't want to feel like beat to shit. Like, you're not going to do Fran and then like can't feel your legs or anus and then go run around the bases.
No.
Just want to say anus.
Yeah, it's a lot of it is trying to stack on baseball, 4 or 5 times a week, and then also trying to work out, 5 to 6 times a week. There's times where I'm trying to warm up for a game and my legs are just like tight mush and I just don't have the drive, or I don't have the, I remember I was going for a ground ball one time, man. I looked like, my legs were just like straightened down. I watched a video of myself and I was like, that's gross.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that. So yeah, when I have a lot of games during the week, I will slow down my fitness a little bit. I try not to, but obviously I was on 2 teams this year. So when playoffs happen,
I know
a lot happened.
So if you did a workout today do you have a natural, forget the baseball thing, like,
Yeah.
oh, I worked out at like 2 p.m. and now what? To feel hopefully better tomorrow.
Nothing, just eat, chill out. I mean, my most active part of the day is going to be working out.
Yeah.
I coach in the mornings. So, I mean, that's kind of walking around. That kind of loosens some things up. But if I'm not working out, it's me flopped on the couch, maybe put on the Normatec. I say I would like to stretch and roll out, but I don't. I don't.
You heard it here first, guys.
I don't. I do it in the gym. I don't do it
I
at
know
home.
it doesn't look like it.
I don't.
Well, but it's also,
stretch.
I always tell people, I'm like, I'm a horrible patient.
Yeah.
Like I'm good at telling people what to do, but I'm really bad at doing some of the things that I also need to do. And so a lot of times you get in those kind of grooves of like, I'm training, I'm living life, I'm doing these things. And you kind of like step back away from the things you need to do. The recovery side of things kind of take a back seat because you have a kid, you got life, you got a job, on top of all those things. And so it's hard to kind of fit them in, or they just don't take priority as much.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
Sorry, so if you're gonna work out hard, you got to rest hard, right? So I mean, that's my thing. I'm gonna flop on that couch. I'm gonna watch Netflix. My sleep is probably my most important thing. No matter what, I need my 8 hours of sleep. Even if I'm coaching, I wake up at 3:30, and when I coach, it means I'm going to bed. Like last night, I was in bed by 8:15.
Yeah, I messaged you. I got no response.
Yeah,
Nice.
You do that all the time. You don't message me until 9 o'clock, and I'm like, bro.
No, that's good though.
Yeah, I'm in bed. I'm sleeping.
Yeah, you crush me on sleep, and I hate when people do these self-proclaiming like, I feel like I'm just different. Like I don't need sleep. I'm like, fuck off. But I kind of have been that way for a very long time, and so I've been focusing a lot more on like sleep and like winding down habits. When you're young, it's like, dude, I was doing like 3 a days. I'm like, bring it on, just like
Bulletproof.
eat chocolate, the barbell. I'm like, that's my food. And then you get a case of like, my knee hurts. What's this? But you mentioned, and the last time you were on, like, just because we do not sometimes see ourselves as official elite athletes, it's like we're not allowed to take care of ourselves like them.
Right.
And so now I do once a month massages.
I do that too, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dream clinic.
Leave her out of this.
Yeah.
All right. Georgia is great. We have an acupuncturist that Trish does more just because I think she has more like that, like back stuff. I kind of tend to go to Heidi. Heidi, if you're listening, you're awesome. Post competition or things like that or something. Just I sometimes get these like thoracic flares up that just real. You've even helped me with that.
Yep.
Had the Normatec like full body armor suit, CBD creams, like gua sha tool and scraping, suction cups off Amazon. Like I have all.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm like the go gadget on that.
I have.
So I'm trying to sleep better. I think I do really well on hydration, and I think the perk about a job like this, and yours as well, is that you're not seated the whole time. And so we try to tell people, if you can, before and really after workouts, just go for like a 200-meter walk. Start to flush that waste buildup and that lactate and all that. It really helps that recovery, because if you go immediately to just Netflix, you're gonna gunk up. Like it feels good. Like in the moment, you're scratching that like pleasure of like, oh, I am pooped and tuckered. I'm gonna lay down, and then you get up 2 hours later, like, oh no, and then it's over.
I think that's actually like, I'm not going to throw CrossFit gyms under the bus here, but I'm kind of going to throw CrossFit gyms under the bus here, where they really fucking suck at like cool down, right? Like and mostly it's the members. They're like, oh, I got to go. And it's like, well, you need 10 minutes. Just like, get on the rower, get on the bike, like just kind of, flush that lactic acid out, lay up against the wall, let your legs kind of drain, actively like let gravity help you as well. Like do some of these things in the realm of like cool down, right? Like you just punch the gas pedal for an hour, and now you're like, oh, got to go sit at my desk for 8 hours straight. I think most of the
responsibility on that should be on mostly the coach in the gym, and just because I think it's the whole like, I mean, just someone came up to me yesterday, was like, hey, are you guys ever thinking about doing an accessory program? And actually the answer is yes, but if that just piqued your interest, we'll talk about that later. But it's like, oh, I want more. And so then you kind of feel this, I don't want to say pressure, but like, oh, okay, let's give them more. And then you really, like, we do this a lot when we meet up for programming. It's like, just because it says 20 minutes on paper plus 20 minutes on paper doesn't mean there's 20 minutes extra. It's like, hey, let me ask the question for the 19th time. Right. And like, oh, let me be really slow till I get the clips out. Hey, let me tell you a story about my cat before you start the clock. Sure. It's like, Jesus. And so you can't really get it all in, and we end up neglecting that. But I think I think we're like C+ at it. We could be better. And I think we've been better at least explaining the whys and allowing people to kind of like, hey, go sit on that bike. Yeah. Hey, we'll be here for like 10 minutes after. I have a client at like 8 a.m., 7 a.m. people stay and linger. And that's going to help that. Yeah. Did you have one more thing to add to that?
Well, yeah, back to what Adam was saying. Sometimes I do try to
get
get
time, man.
No, go ahead. People leaving early, especially when I try to get a class done early to have a cool down.
Yeah.
And then you guys leave early just because it's done early. Oh, that drives me insane.
Well, because it's not real. And then I'm going to call everyone out.
Should we
if you're offended,
talk pet peeves?
Oh God. If you're like that's offensive, fine, be it, because you signed up. I'm just gonna make this up.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, I'll make up a class time so no one feels attacked. Let's say it's a 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. class. You came here to plan on doing something from 10 to 11 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
The coach, like Sarah's great at this, saves like 5 to 10 minutes, and it makes sense. You're not losing out. Like, you just completely gassed out in the echo bike or something to cool you down, bring you back down to earth, allow you to like more safely get back in your normal life. And now you're quickly slinging like a backpack on or running out the door. Like, oh, I got a meeting. I'm like, but what was if this Metcon went 5 minutes longer?
Yeah.
Did you also, were you going to leave early?
Oh, yeah.
And like,
just dip out.
99 out of 100
No.
times, the answer is no.
Right.
Like, oh, and then a random Wednesday morning happens. Like, why do I feel this pain? I'm like, because you're not taking care of yourself.
Not at all.
So that's where I would say that's on both of us. If you have that mindset,
Yeah.
just accept you're here from that 10 to 11 a.m. class.
Mm-hmm.
And that really means even 30 minutes before, 30 minutes after, travel time, like get your brain back down to earth, get some blood flow out to, the extremities and all that. So
For sure.
yeah, that's a good point. All right, next question. How do you overcome your own personal bias in programming? Are there moves you don't like that you have to kind of, quote, force yourself to add? And I think this can be interpreted by any of us as in the gym programming, personal programming. You sometimes can't get in and you do kettlebell stuff at home.
Yep.
How do you kind of navigate around the whole like, I'm going to open gym an hour early and I'm going to do
bench press.
That sounds about
Squats.
right.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm there to squat or deadlift. Like,
Yeah.
So
Move
are you choosing that because it's like, oh, I need to, or like I'd like to, or oh, I've had a doozy of a day and I cannot, like it says thrusters and bar facing burpees, but I need a win. Like, do you find yourself maybe out of 10 times, how often do you program, I guess, what you would deem as the thing you should for your either goals, health, aesthetics, or is it more of like, you know what, I'm going for a pump?
I think it depends. Like if I have been out of the gym for a little bit and I need to like kind of just ease myself back into the gym and just get moving, I'll be like, I'm going to just go in bench today because it's something I enjoy.
mm-hmm.
It's easy. It's not going to like, crush me. And it allows me to have those good feelings. And then I can like, all right, I can build off of that. Other times I do have personal goals in the bench press that before my lifetime ends, I would like to hit 405 would be a dope goal.
For bench?
For bench, yeah.
So like, I guess when I read this question, it's kind of like, how often do the voices win in our head?
Sure.
That's like, you should be doing this. You have this coming up, or this is not your strong suit. Like, you crush weightlifting, gymnastics I suck at. Nah, you know what? I'm going to go for power clean. Like,
yeah.
How often do the voices win versus not?
And I think this kind of plays into that accessory kind of conversation where it's like, okay, CrossFit's hard. Yeah, a lot of it's metabolic conditioning. You guys actually, Pushbox in general has a really good strength program already built in. So you're kind of getting that. And so a lot of times, if I come in early, you guys see me kind of doing accessory stuff a lot of times where it's like, oh, I don't have time to do this at home, or I don't have the setups to do these things at home. Do I love it? Absolutely not. Accessory work is mundane and kind of boring in the comparison of CrossFit, right? Like it's more like bodybuilding. Right. It's like, I'm going to go in and get a pump, right? It's slow and kind of just, you're just kind of there, where accessory work's kind of the same thing. And so those are the things that, like, if I have an extra hour, I'm like, I'm going to do some accessory work. I need to work on this mobility. I need to work on, this strength pattern of these little intrinsic muscles and things like that. Because obviously I just want to walk in and like get to squat, get to deadlift, get to bench press, do whatever, do the big three, snatch and clean and jerk, fun things where you're like, PR'd my weight today, like, and then you're like all pumped, but how often you're like, PR'd my, internal rotation on my hip.
Yeah, right.
Like nobody gives a shit about that.
Oh God.
Nobody's asking you like,
that's not some of your get-ups.
No, right? Yeah. Like, yeah. So, I did a cock push-up today. It was fantastic. Like then, yes, for sure.
What push-up?
Do you say cock?
Cock push-up.
Oh, okay.
Did you not watch Tenacious D?
No. What's a cock push-up? We're just
You
gonna
just have to do
question.
one.
Huh?
You need to watch this movie.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the Jack Black?
Jack Black, yeah.
Oh,
You said, how do you stay fit? Just one cock push-up a day.
like press with your cock.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I have not.
I'm not getting very high.
I'm not kidding. What?
Very high up. It's not as fun to burn you when you burn yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, someone who has now a taint swinger sloth as a logo.
Yeah.
That threw me off guard when you said cock
I'll
push
have
up.
a tattoo at some point.
I was thinking, is this a real movement? I haven't
think
heard
we've said
this.
No.
Cock 8 times, and I've said it 6.
It's been a few.
Okay,
Right.
cool.
Yeah.
So I guess the way I would answer that is personally, I'm addicted to being better. And not like that sounds real douchey, but what I mean by that is my whole kind of origin story I always kind of tell people is my first ever open workout. And the way I used to train was, you kind of hit everything, but I always did like hang power cleans, GHD sit-up, things like the fun things. And then I don't know, I think it was my first open 2011 or 12. It was an AMRAP, even though it never is multiple rounds. It's like 150 wall ball, double unders, and muscle ups. And everyone's like, I tell us a lot, so I'll go through the story. Everyone's like, you're going to crush it. You're so good at double unders and muscle ups. I'm like, thanks, guys. And my parents watched me for the first time, but I like always skipped legs. And the wall balls crushed me. And that feeling was haunting. Like, haunting. And so I was like, all right.
Trauma.
No, really, like, it was like, dude, you just you did this to yourself. You picked the things you like to do, and you now, like, sucked because of it. It's not even like you didn't do on the leaderboard, grand scheme, who cares? But, like, your parents were there. You could do better. You're better than this. And you essentially just, like, sidestepped it because it was hard. It was yucky. And so I use fitness a lot now is not even just like, oh, do it for my health. Like that's a byproduct. I'm aware of that's happening. And we talk about this a lot, but it's like, it's resilience training. Like I want to be tougher. I want to know I'm capable of doing something at any point. And so I sometimes need to do now more things like, oh, I just need a bench today. Not every day needs to be this like head smash into the wall thing just to prove yourself as a person. It's like, that also can be a bad addiction mentally. But yeah, besides like renegade rows.
I was going to mention, I was like, what about renegade rows, dude?
I fucking hate
I'm so
renegade
bad at
rows.
them.
Yeah.
I don't mind them. They're
just,
Some people are just like they have the trunk stability
They
for
can do
them.
it all, like-
I'm terrible at them.
I
They're
can
like
do them. I think you can watch.
I'm sure you
but
can
it's
do
just like,
don't want to.
they just don't, I don't know, whatever the opposite of 6 midnight is, 6 to like lower 6. It's just like, I don't know. I don't like them. I don't get a rush from them. I can get horizontal pulling differently there. I do different stability with trunk work. You'll never see, if I ever see a CrossFit competition with renegade rows and like bear crawls, and I'm like, I'm out.
Skip.
But
funny.
that mentality, I guess I could argue, is kind of toxic. So maybe you should do them for the sake of doing it,
For sure.
But
If you're bad at them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've told this before. If you're having an issue with that, I used to write out triplets with something I hated, something I was impartial to, and something I loved. And that kind of disguised my disgust
That's how I
for that
learned
thing.
double unders.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just added them into everything I was doing where I was like, oh, okay. I suck at them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just keep doing them.
I like knowing I can pretty much do every movement. Maybe not the heaviest, maybe not the best, but for the most part, give me enough time I can figure it out. And that comes from a lot of crossover training. Not like double under crossover, but when you start doing a wide variety of movements, like neurologically, coordination, all that, like it plays a role into other learning curves of movements.
Oh, 100%. This
Yeah.
actually comes into the talk of like specialization versus generalization, especially in sports and athletes, right?
Yep.
Like you get these parents these days that like, my kid only plays this sport, right? And so, and then they want them to be great and grand at it, and they may be for a little while, but then they're going to end up getting into maybe high school or the collegiate level, and they're going to be worse than some of these kids that have been playing all of these other sports because they've had adaptations in other movement patterns. Their motor control patterns are significantly better. They can adapt on the fly instead of being like, this is the only thing that I do.
Allows them to think outside the box. There was a documentary about all the great athletes, Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, he wanted to play baseball.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah. A lot of
his
athletes
dad
said,
had him do like weird stuff, but he said like, I want to play baseball, and a lot of that skill transferred over.
For sure.
Yeah, besides probably like Tiger Woods and like, I don't know, like the Williams sisters, it was a lot of them played other things.
Yep.
Jerry Rice, the
Jerry Rice
classic
didn't
thing.
play football until his junior year of high school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was arguably the best wide
Yep.
receiver ever.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
sure.
yeah, I think a lot of that's the kind of whole like just accept you got to eat your vegetables if you want dessert. Just,
Yeah.
like it's going to be over with. Like do some renegade rows, Aidan. Do some other stuff. Don't bench all the time. You know, it's like But for the most part, unless you're like, I don't know, really training for this one thing, it's like try to be well-rounded, accept that everything's not going to be like super awesome, because especially if you go to a class and then someone else programs for you, you're most likely going to run into the thing you avoid. And then you're going to just be like, ugh, I can't believe I kept skipping this. I hate when I suck at this. So like you're doing yourself a favor.
Were you in the bodybuilding world for a little while as well? Like
I wouldn't call it bodybuilding,
commercialized
just
fitness,
strength, and I
getting the
guess
pump
yeah,
on.
did a lot.
Yeah.
Some pump, mainly strength though. I
Yeah.
would call myself more of a power lifter than anything, but
Sure.
didn't fit under the powerlifting like what do you call it? The structure of like
Right.
the actual powerlifting
Yeah.
thing. It was
I had
kind of cross
similar
between.
story. I was bodybuilding and never did legs, right? Like I was that guy, which I hate telling people. And then one day, like friends of mine were like, "You should come work out with us, do some legs with us." And I did. And like halfway through, I had to go to the bathroom and like throw up, and then accept. Like I was like, "Ooh," made myself sick by doing it, and then returned, finished what we were doing, and they're like, "Did you just go throw up?" And I was like, "Yep," like had to. And I like after that, I was sore for I think almost 2 weeks. I could barely walk. Like walking, like I had to take the elevator at work because I couldn't walk up the 10
units you
steps.
never also touched.
Yeah.
So that reminds me, because that now I'm just visualizing skinny legs. This is completely, let's not get lost down here, but Juju shot me a message yesterday. She's like, would you rather have praying mantis arms or owl legs? And I said owl legs. She's like, look it up. So I Googled it.
They're so tiny.
I didn't know. Someone actually like lifted like
Yeah.
the feathers and the body of them up, and
So
they were
tiny.
just like the longest, skinniest things. I'm like, oh, well played.
I'd rather just have my legs cut off, I think, than, I'd just be double amputee. Than
That's
have,
just where
praying mantis arms, dude. Those things are fucking
they're like
vicious.
T-Rex arms.
No,
That's
no,
true.
but they're like that's their main tool, man.
Yeah.
Like that's
imagine trying to like
Female
start
mantis.
like romantic foreplay with praying mantis arms as you graze down the cheek of your partner. That's not going well.
well. If I was a praying mantis, I
You're
don't
not.
think
Your arms are praying mantis.
doesn't the female eat the male head
Yep.
after which? Like I don't want to be.
During, I think, like during.
Oh yeah, during it. Like you'd be like
during
mid,
intercourse. Yep.
and then you're just getting your head eaten off.
Mhm.
It has to be really good though if you're willing
So
to do that.
segues naturally to gym etiquette, right? So
It has to be really good.
Really good.
we have someone brought up some stuff for like gym etiquette, and an example was like if you're squatting real heavy in facing the wood wall in our gym, things like, does it bother you if someone is right in front of you or
Yes.
or walks in front of you?
That's normal
100%.
response. Yes.
So all the percent.
All the percents.
Okay.
Yeah.
At what
Probably
perc-
+1.
Well, who's that guy that's all trending, like Dozier weightlifting on Instagram?
I try to not be on Instagram. I hate
He
it.
said something like, it was a similar question. He's like, if it's a real like heavy, it's like, yeah, like he didn't say it this way, but I interpret it as like bowler's etiquette. Like don't
Sure.
bowl in the same lane next to someone. He's like, but a part of also that like mental toughness and fortitude is like if you're focusing on the right things and you're locked in, if it's kind of like warm up weight, it's like,
Sure. Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
But
Different.
heavy, specifically heavy.
I also, with that same like caveat of like Olympic lifting, people walking in front of you while you're trying to hit like a heavy clean and jerk or a heavy snatch, right? Like you have a focal point, but yes, that person is like almost distracting all the things that are going on in your brain, right? Because it's a stimulus that's coming in.
Yeah.
Which,
any other little? Oh, go ahead.
but that just like pisses me off almost more than anything. So,
All right.
Yeah.
So we agree. Don't just sit there. Well, it doesn't help is just from like organization. I leave the benches on the wall in front, and that's rest. If you're lifting heavy, you should be sitting down and doing nothing. Don't be doing like
But also you can just
bicycle
like,
kick abs in the corner,
like
but get out of the
walk,
way.
walk behind people, right? Like,
I love to sit there just like legs open. They're like, hey, what's up, man? How's it going? I'm like, I don't know, near death and now distracted.
yeah.
There's one person in the gym that does it a lot. I won't call.
Oh,
them.
one?
Well, not sure more. There's one particular that I know does this like.
I'm sure that I've
Yeah.
done it, right? Like I accidentally, or
Accident's
I
fine,
try
yeah.
to like not step in front of somebody when they are lifting,
Especially
right?
as a coach.
Warm up weight, you're at 50%. Like you're not even focusing on that. Like you're just kind of moving go through the motions.
When I'm coaching squats or anything in the rack, I'm usually inside the rig and I'm trying to get like a front angle because
100%.
I don't
Yeah.
want to like cue somebody from behind and them like turn around with the whole weight in the arm. So I'm trying to make sure if I'm gonna cue somebody, I'm making eye contact. And there's times where I might have walked in front of you, and I do apologize, but I try to make it an effort, like not to do it during a lift and wait till after a lift to walk past somebody. Obviously, etiquette, bad things are going to happen.
Any other etiquette thing that stands out? What about, because this happens a lot, and I think it's so natural, and you're trying to help each other out. Either a coach could do this or other members of the gym. I don't know, let's say you're going for a strict press. You take it off the rack, you miss it. It's something I can clean. I clean it up, put it back in the rack. Does that bother you?
No. Thank you for picking that weight up.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that bother you if
No.
that happens to you?
No, not at all.
No.
I find that, two people picking it up at one time and trying it
Seems more
that's-
dangerous.
It's awkward.
Yeah, it's awkward. Somebody's
I mean,
going to tear something.
And I'm sorry if that offends you that I do
People
it.
get offended by that?
Yeah, I would say unless I try to back squat like 365
And then somebody cleans that.
with their dick and puts it back on the rack, then I'm like,
Sure,
bro.
Yeah. I mean,
A little different.
if you're sitting there having to starfish
But I'm
it
also
just to
impressed.
clean, yeah.
Yeah, I'm impressed if somebody just walked up and was like, "Don't worry about that, I got it," and cleaned 365. But like,
No, sure.
yeah, no, still like
doesn't bother you.
no, not at all. Like I'd be like, "Holy shit, that guy's strong."
This
Or girl,
a while ago, I don't know if you know Chris from Open Gym. Strong
Yeah,
as fuck.
strong man.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's a moment I was going for something. It was like multiple reps at, I don't know, low 300s in the back squat, and I think I missed my like fifth one. And he like just came in. I think he has like, I don't know, Uggs on or something. I don't know if he wears Uggs, but I'm trying to bring him down in this story. He's like, "Do you want me to get that for you?" And it was so sincere. And I was like, it was my last set. Like I was going in the deadlifts after. I would have been like, yeah, like I love supporting other people's strength. I think especially guys have such egos about that. I'm like, "No, I'm good, man. Thanks for offering just a power clean 315 raw off the floor in your fucking like slippers." I was like, "God, you're so strong."
Yeah.
So majestic.
no, like that stuff doesn't bother me, right? Like, because I think that's kind of on if, and I'm probably gonna offend somebody here, but if that bothers you, that's kind of on you, right? Like, if you're not that strong, then get stronger.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the answer.
I'll say
to that
unless
question.
you locked eyes with me and you're like, "I'm doing this," and I'm texting your wife later.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jesus, like,
Yeah.
all right, it now seems
Yeah,
personal.
I'm doing this to like piss you off, but then
Yeah.
again, like you just helped me out. Like you,
Yeah, I'm yeah.
If you're trying to showboat, then leave.
Totally
yeah.
different.
But if
Yeah.
that's just like because your ego's hurt because you missed the lift, like then that's on you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here's one I'd love to get into. I think it's talked about a lot within multiple communities and in this kind of world is, should coaches be able to perform movements in order to teach and coach them? Why or why not?
I'm gonna start with this just because I thought about this, and I'm gonna bring up a new hot NFL coach right now, Mike McDaniels.
Dolphins.
Dolphins, yeah.
Dolphins. Like,
Yeah.
do you
Shout
think?
out Carlos.
Yeah, he obviously a mastermind when it comes to the sport, but I don't think he's played a down of advanced professional football.
No, didn't he play for Yale?
Do you know a story?
No, I don't know this whole story.
So he used to, I think, single mom,
He was a
and
Oh.
so this is how
he
got
was
there.
not a single mom. He came from a single
he is
mom.
not a single mom.
Okay.
He is the son of a single mom. And I think during the summertime when she had to work, went to the Denver Broncos practice facility to try to always get autographs. And apparently it was kind of a thing that's like, you're not trying to get autographs by the same player multiple times for like multiple cards and all that. But he's like, if you ever watch him, he's very funny and very sarcastic.
Yeah.
He's like, "But I knew the system. I put a hat on." He put on like a Charlotte Hornets hat and came back in disguise and did it. And then I think somehow like the hat got lost. And he was like, "Oh my gosh," grabbed some guy's attention who worked for like, I think he was like a guard or something. I don't know. And long of it short, he's like, "I'm sorry. I checked everywhere. I can't find it for you." Came back the next day to get more autographs. And that guy who worked for the facility went out and he knew he bought him the hat because it still had the tag on the inside.
Mm.
And he was so touched by that. He was like, Mom, look at like what this guy did. They ended up getting married.
No kidding.
Oh wow.
And that's how he became the ball boy for the Denver Broncos, which is also why he was like, I think super pissed when he finally, I think, started to like, he was one of like the assistant coaches.
Yeah.
Worked for them and they let him go. That's why I think he was a little motivated to beat them like 70-20 that day.
Oh, for sure.
But anyway, I digress. I
Well,
thought it was a cool
it's
story.
just pointing like you don't need to have that like I can do this in order to coach it.
Sure.
Right. Oftentimes, great players don't make great coaches.
Mhm.
Right. And I don't think it's super necessary. I think it could help. Right. But I don't think it's necessary at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I took my USAW cert from a 98-year-old man who couldn't squat or clean and jerk or do anything, but like had a wealth of knowledge, right? Like that guy's not gonna, show me how to clean and jerk 315 pounds, but he's also gonna just like be able to explain these things in great detail to where I understood it and was able to replicate it for other people, So, no, I don't think so either. Yeah.
I will agree.
Oh, okay.
I think that's it. I do have a pretty stern but following this. I think the answer is obviously no, you do not need to be able to do it all to coach it, right? Like just because I cannot snatch 315 doesn't mean I don't have the ability to coach someone who can if mine is 135. But if I have like a flawless snatch at 135, then just you're stronger than me, or you train it more consistent. I do a lot of other things. Now, if you move like a dumpster fire and your cues are just wrong, you're like position 8. You're like, that's not a thing. Yeah. You're like, well, now we have a situation. I will say we do need to factor in the human element though, of like, I've always said, I don't know if this even makes sense, but we judge by nature, like we have so many options out there. And this started from like so many years ago. Like we have to kind of be like that red berry, maybe that's poison. Like we have to kind of by nature. Like I wouldn't go to a homeless person for financial advice. That doesn't mean they don't have it. I mean, there could be, but instinctively there's not that thing in me that's like, yeah, let's hear this person out.
Sure.
So I think it, like you said, it adds to, I think, the natural thing people are thinking about, even if they're not aware they're thinking it, right? If you don't look like you live this lifestyle, but you're preaching so hard about, hey, you need to eat this and you need to move like this and you should stretch, but you're saying it while smoking a cigarette and you don't look like you take care of your food and like you move poorly, then it's like you still could have this wealth of knowledge, sure, but I think the buy-in becomes harder. Now I think I think we've all had this as a coach. You say something and it finally helps that person, like, oh, that relieved my knee pain. And now it's like they start believing in you.
Right.
But it took months.
Yeah.
Like every time we go to a seminar, like I've been doing this for a long time. And so if I even walk away with one nugget of information, I'm like, that was absolutely worth it.
Totally worth it.
But I think it's also like a relationship of both parties. Like I go into it completely like, I don't care if this person's tall, young, old, man, woman, dolphin, like whatever. It's just, I want to learn. I'm trusting already that you're setting this thing up because you have something to teach me.
Yeah.
But I think it makes certain cueing easier if you can also do the thing. You're like, oh, do you also like let go of that hook grip when you turn over for the snatch? Yeah, here's why I do it. Wrist stability and this and that. Or, when you receive in the bottom of the ring dip on a muscle, like I think it just helps relatability. I think it helps buy-in, regardless if that's fair or not. So that's my only thing with but. I think if you're a coach, you should be, if you can't do, then I'm hoping that you are really refining your skills and how to cue, see, spot the flaw, correct. And then you'll get that trust and relationship building. Because you're right, someone is coaching LeBron James how to do jumpers. Someone is coaching Tiger, putting, and they're not better than them, but they can either see something or do it enough that they can relate to, like, hey,
their ability to give them information in a way that's digestible for them, right? So that their brain understands it and they're able to like replicate that movement pattern.
So my thing would be like, coaches, if you're out there and you can't do it, can you not because you don't care to learn it? And if so, okay, but just know you probably need to make sure you really hone in your cueing and coaching skills. And if you're a member or a recipient of information there, don't also be quick to judge, just because they look like that doesn't mean anything. It's just like, give them an opportunity to teach you something. And then if they're like, that doesn't make any sense at all, or that hurts me more, or I'm getting worse, then have your opinions about them as a teacher or a coach or a
I would say the same thing on the opposite side, where just because a great athlete or can do something very well, it doesn't mean they can coach it very well. Oftentimes, these great athletes don't make good coaches because it came so easily to them. They don't know the struggle of how to really progress to get somewhere. Whereas the not so great athletes know the struggle, how to try really hard in order to like find all the tricks and the trades in order to make it happen. So when they come to an athlete that's looking to get their first muscle up or double under, it's like, hey, listen, I've been here. I know exactly what we need to do. It's not going to be super easy, There might be a trial and error factor here, but let's try this, and this. And that's why oftentimes the great athletes don't, the not so great athletes make good coaches sometimes. So,
yeah, I think there's a lot
I
of
agree.
different attributes and passions that go into coaching, but I think one of which is if you can't relate, you got to have more than one cue
yeah.
up your sleeve, because just being like elbow over and over, it's like, no, they heard you. You didn't say it wrong.
Yeah.
It's just not connecting to them. Like you're
that's
saying
not
giraffe,
working for
they heard
them.
banana.
Exactly.
You're almost there, but you're not quite.
Or just like showing like, hey, this is muscle up. Just do this. And you're like, oh, okay.
Thanks, dickhead.
I'll just do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Pros versus cons of having a leaderboard. And this is for the context of like you enter your score into the leaderboard, people can see it, and you see blah 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 blah, name, number. Do you like it, or do you think it should exist? 60-40 yes or no, and then maybe a quick why.
I'm going to say 90% yes, it should exist, and 10% no. Mainly because the only reason why it's a no is because I'm letting my ego, win.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be like, I'm going to try to do this or try to beat that. And that's why
I saw
things go
someone
sour.
yesterday, and this is what I assumed. They got 2 out of the 3 reps on the strict press, and it would happen to be a fail of 2.5 pounds above what mine was, and it ended up having to enter like 5 pounds lower. And in my head, I'm like, I know what you were doing.
Yeah.
I know exactly why
I do
you
that
went for that.
shit all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's that 10% on why I shouldn't. But absolutely, man. I mean, I don't think there's any reason why. I mean, if we didn't like have these egotistical, especially I'm gonna call it guys. It's mainly guys who do this.
Guys are the worst.
Yeah, we are the worst.
God,
It's always a big dick contest.
mainly hate most guys.
I also agree with Josh. It's
what the hell
but
is going on
also
with you 2 today?
Yeah.
the ego driving, I think, is kind of part of the beauty of that, right? Like it actually
Can help.
it pushes you to try to be better. That's the whole idea of what we do, right? Like CrossFit was kind of founded on the idea of, hey, here's this leaderboard, here's this whiteboard, right? Like it used to just be like people just writing their names on a board, and then you'd get to see it during the day, and you'd be like, oh, like my friend Bob, like he hit this on this lift, but also his time was this. I'm trying to beat him. So therefore it's pushing you to be a little bit better, right? So I'm pro leaderboard, mainly just so I can like see other people and try to beat
I'll play
them.
devil's advocate just for the sake of conversation. What if you're now always chasing the leaderboard, and like yesterday's example I just gave you, 4 out of 5 times you're now missing the mark. You didn't quite get the rounds you wanted, or you're missing out on lifts, so now you're not getting the actual reps deposited in the bank. Let's say your movement quality is getting a little sketch on like Sydney, because now your push-ups are like dog shit. And you're like, I won, and everyone's like,
I think that's a coaching mistake though as well, right? Like that's, you have to hold your coaches accountable to be like, okay, stop Bob from doing that shit, right? Like rein him in. That's what you're there for. You have to be kind of the, I hate to say this, but babysitter of that group, of being like, oh, well, I see so-and-so doing shitty push-ups. I see so-and-so doing this. Oh, they missed on their, we're doing a 5 rep, every 5 minutes or whatever for heaviest weight, and they were only hitting 2. Okay, well, like I got to bring you back to earth and be like, hey, you know what? You're not going to beat Aidan today. So maybe you should actually get some work done.
yeah, I would say if you start paying attention to what the workouts are, to the notes we have that kind of say things like, hey, I know you want to go heavier, stay in your fucking lane and stick to your percentages. Because I always see people, I'm like, you realize that calculators exist. I can take that number, divide it by 0.65, and I know for a fact you cannot lift that. And I'm like, why? Like, it's hard because every once in a while we have those days where like, I feel good.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, then express it. Like, yeah, absolutely. But if it's to get like 4th on the leaderboard, like the loser's gold medal, I'm like why? Like especially because we do such like pretty specific percentages and like building blocks. I'm like, just chill, like you're still an accountant on the most of the days. Like it's okay. We don't want you to hurt yourself with that.
Yep.
Like if you have a friendly banter, like you and I would be like, you got me. But like that's also because I think we now don't have the ego that's like, I'm mad at you for beating me.
No.
But I will still admit if it's right or wrong. I get a little frustrated when I can tell people are like, you're just doing it to kind of like win this arbitrary thing.
Right.
But yeah, overall, I will say though, I think it's good to have the leaderboard. I think if you're not comfortable putting it on yet, I'm just going to very nicely remind you, it's like we all care about ourselves more than we think other people care about us.
Yeah.
Meaning like, I don't know, they're going to see that I'm last. I'm like, no one's making fun of you. No one's laughing. In fact, we love seeing you there. We love putting gifts and like welcome to the community or fist bumps to people on all of them. Like I go by and just like fist bump all, and so like it's tedious.
They need to have that button.
Yeah, just fist all.
Oh man, yeah.
Because I'm
individually fisting people
let's
is
just
exhausting.
throw it out there. Sugar Watt's terrible. So
I actually just said it was like rate us. I was like, I'm gonna give you a 4-star because I'm overall fine, but recently I am currently not fine.
I love Sugar Watt. I came from the old school journal where you're like, "What was my lift?" And you're like, "When did we do that?" I think that was like 3 months ago. And you're shifting through the papers, and it takes like 15 minutes just to find a lift.
User experience is not prime, we'll say. I think it's great. I think they do a good job as far as that goes, but I think it could be better. Like they're just their interface just
everything can be better.
Fucking sucks.
All right, let's just kind of stay on that topic then. If we're talking about pros and cons of leaderboards, you can say yes or no, I agree, disagree, pros or cons, whatever you want. But the whole like RX and scaled thing, or RX plus, or level 1, 2, 3, like when is there a good time to be like, hey, that's the RX, that is 135.95, or it's like, hey, that could be kind of a negative to certain people. They don't quite have the athlete IQ yet to recognize, oh, I can do it for 1. So my head says, yes, I can, but you're not kind of doing multiplication. That's 5 rounds of 10. That's 50.
Sure.
So
I've
like
always
from ego to training benefit, I guess, is that kind of question.
I've always felt that there should be like levels of CrossFit where it's like, obviously I think I've said this, maybe we've never had this conversation since I've moved here, but always program for your top, right? Like the RX people, RX plus, whatever, program for them because everything's scalable, right? Like you can always bring it down off of that number. I think people need to understand where they are and be able to like accept that and be like, on this movement of, let's say it's overhead press, right? And I'm doing 100 of them for this workout. Oh, I can't do 135 pounds for this. I need to be able to like make it through this entire workout or whatever. And I need to bring this down. I need to scale myself. I scale things all the time, because I'm like, well, you know what, today I can't deadlift. I think I did Saturday.
We did Saturday, yeah.
I was like, oh, you know what? Like my back's been a little fired up. I got hit by a car again. And so
what is up with you?
It's second, third time. I don't know.
I feel like we have a whole podcast about how many times Adam's been hit by a car.
You know how many times I've been hit by a car?
Zero. How many times are you on a bicycle?
Well, yeah, but on average, we've all been hit by a car once because Adam's been hit by a car 3 times.
Yeah. So, but I was like, you know what? We're doing 50 reps of this. I don't need to do 255. I'm going to bring things down, and that's kind of that like personal, I know where I'm at right now. I know this is not going to be beneficial for me in the long run.
You know what's funny though, is I didn't know you went to 235 from 255, but I noticed you in my periph and that pushed me.
Yeah.
And so I'm now not like, oh, I worked that hard just to like go against a scaled athlete.
No, never.
Like, no, it was just like, that was smart for you. You kept the pace for the stimulus of the workout.
100%.
And I was unknowing it. I was like, this motherfucker is going to catch me. And I was rowing way uncomfortably. I was like, so I think like we all won from that.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, exactly.
So where do you think, okay, however, I think there's a difference between RXing a workout and being an RX or scaled athlete. Meaning, right now, I could program is going to be a 20-minute AMRAP of 20 air squats, 20 sit-ups, 20 single unders. And probably 95+% of the community, if not 100, could do that workout RX'd.
Yeah.
Should they sign up for an RX competition? What is that distinguishable difference between, all right, the workout may be RXable or need to be scalable, but we kind of know without knowing officially, there's like, yeah, you're an RX athlete, don't sign up for a scaled. Or you can do one of these things. All right, because there's certain standards we see amongst traditional RX workouts, competitions, the games, things like that, that we can kind of begin to look at the movement list and be like, oh, that's me, or like, oh, that's not me. Because I think there's a difference. RXing something, to clarify, in my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, is that's what the workout board says. I'm doing it as written, as prescribed, as RX. Oh, I need to adjust something. I'm therefore scaling it. And then there's 9 out of 10 times, I'm an RX athlete. I'm a scaled athlete.
I think the whole RX scale thing can be difficult sometimes, especially just because.
Would we agree most of this is ego?
Yeah, it's
I think so.
definitely
I think there's a
ego.
ton of gray area too, right? Like
A lot of
it's
gray.
just so
A lot of slate, a lot of charcoal.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and everyone wants to be here, right? And everyone's trying to be here, and that doesn't necessarily can be there. But to answer your question there, I would say if you can do like 95% of the movements, and we all know that like the weights, like, you have 95, 135, I think 155 on certain movements.
Things are kind of bumping up.
225 on deadlifts. Very rarely you're going to see like, those big heavy loads on, RX like 350. I think, what was the heaviest deadlift in the open?
One of the
like
open was a heavy Diane. It was
275
like
maybe?
315 deadlift with like strict handstand push-ups or something like that.
That's very, very rare. So I would say like I have a hard time with pistols with one leg. I can do it on one leg, but I can't do the other. My muscle ups are always hit or miss. So there I can't do every single movement, but I can do like at least 95% and the weight. So I consider myself an RX athlete because of that. And not that I wouldn't sign up for a scaled workout. I mean, scaled comp. I have before. My very first comp was scaled just so I can ease myself into it.
Yeah.
And I still only took like, I think 7th or 10th in that workout too. So
yeah, and there were 6 teams. That's weird.
No. But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of where that stands.
Yeah, I would just say like, if you're continuously frustrated by seeing RX and scaled weights, and you're always now quote having to scale, or you are scaled, you know what? Part of it is just kind of accept like that's just kind of where you're at, and that's totally okay, right?
Yeah.
Like most people are coming into a CrossFit gym with the same story I've heard forever. It's like, I kind of did like in high school this thing, then I played like intramural frisbee, and then I just forgot moving was a thing for 10 years, and I became an adult, and now I get back into it, and our brain is still in the past, like the Uncle Rico syndrome. It's like back in 82 I could throw football over those mountains. I'm like, yeah, but it's 2023 and your elbow is like falling off,
Right.
So I think I agree, especially this gym, like we program up, and we are continuously trying to have a conversation and create an environment which is very safe and very welcoming to be like, hey, like we need 10 unbroken from this to create a certain stimulus on why. Like I don't think you're there yet, and like that's probably bedside manner of coaching, but like here's how I think you can get like an equally shitty burn, and you'll actually get there faster. Because I think a lot of times coaches will probably like enjoy quote coaching the higher up athletes, and then we don't consistently have, I'm gonna say we as in the general community, I think we're really good at push hey, you've been on that green band for 2 weeks, get off, you're on purple now.
Yeah.
And it's like we got to have that dialogue. We are here to get you better, and we want in general our gym like the most badass gen pop, and like all 3 of us are gen pop, you know what I mean? Like we're not
Right.
elite athletes that are training 6 hours a day, so we don't want any excuse to hold you back there. But if it's just the whole like, man, I have to scale this, I'm like, you're 4 weeks into it, this person's 4 years into it, this person's 14 years into it, of course you're not the same. But it's not because you suck.
I think it's the person's job to know where they're at, but I think it's also the coach's job to also know where that person's at, where they can be like, hey, I saw you last week, you were only doing X number of push-ups, so therefore you probably don't want to do this workout with 50 push-ups in it and try to go unbroken. We may need to scale you. I just want you to keep moving, keep getting that stimulus, keep getting better, right? But if you have to stop every 5 reps and take a 3-minute break because your heart rate's through the goddamn roof, then you're clearly pushing yourself too hard.
Yeah, and kind of the opposite too is like, just because you have now like kind of butterfly pull-ups, they weren't designed to do 2 at a time. It's a cycle rate thing. Like the butterfly only goes to the butterfly, it doesn't go anywhere else. So like also know when you maybe have certain tricks up your sleeve, but you're developing, and when to actually like use them in a test versus train them. Yeah. And it's like understand the nature of certain things as well.
And what's that really translate into? If you can only do them 2, are you getting that stimulus to even get better at that position? Clearly you're not strong enough to maintain that cycle for 30 reps, or 10 reps or whatever. It's like, again, like know where you're at, be comfortable just being like, I'm scaling today, right? Like it's okay, you're getting a stimulus.
I would say, yeah, but also
we got a couple minutes here,
you can still try it, but don't do it in that workout. Maybe stay after class and do your single butterflies and try to string them together. And that's gonna how you're gonna really progress yourself in that.
Adaptation comes from stress and stimulus. And so that's where a lot of the money's made, especially in the CrossFit realm and kind of argument of intensity. But that can also be relative a little bit. So if we're losing out on fitness because we're kind of just weirdly moving through things or not scaling when we should or should have scaled up and we didn't. And I was like, oh, that was easy. I said 20 pull-ups unbroken. I'm like, no, you didn't. You used 4 more bands than you should have.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to make those like whoopsie daisy decisions. We need to know where the lines are to color in and stay out of. Yeah, I think we did a good job. We only missed kind of like one question, and that was, I put that last for a reason. I'm not even going to tell you what it was.
No, we can do a speed round.
No.
Next time.
Okay.
It was essentially, should coaches stick to the programming in the gym?
Oh, should they do the programming?
Yeah.
I'm gonna again, gray area, right? Like what's your goals? Are you competing, right? Like because Gen Pop, no offense to Gen Pop or anything like that, but Gen Pop programming is not usually designed for competitive CrossFit athletes, right?
Correct.
Like you need accessory work. You need these other things.
You need a lot more. There's a reason why they now train 7 hours a day. Yeah. Mine was overall yes/sure, for the sake of also like it probably shows you have buy-in and belief in what your programmer or gym is doing. But unless you have specific goals, then no, feel free to not do it because you're on a journey there. But don't avoid it just because it looks yucky and you don't have a journey. You're just kind of like, hey, you're now a coach. You're in the gym. You're selling this product, yet you're not believing in it now just because you're in a mood.
I also think it's kind of fun to see the coaches in the classes though.
Totally.
And I think members also like that.
Yeah.
Where like when I coached, I would take classes on a regular basis, even if it was just like me like doing it because it was like I had a free hour, you know, and it's like, oh, well, I'm also gonna like do my Olympic lifting later, you know, but I can also get this done as well.
Yeah, Aidan, come do a class.
All right.
I think it's fun.
I usually do them all by myself though.
I know.
Today seemed like really, and I'm like, yes, like 3:13, here I come. Quickly, yes or no?
I'll say not necessarily. Keep aware of it. Like you said, I think you described it pretty perfectly. Like, you know, obviously you want to be able to, you know, eat the Kool-Aid, drink the Kool-Aid, and
just
eat the Kool-Aid.
Just dry Kool-Aid packets.
Out of the mouth.
Yeah, if there's a coach not doing it, then like, do you really believe in what you're programming? But not necessarily. But it depends on the journey.
It depends on your goals. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think you guys are great. I'm going to end this on an awkward note by shaking both your hands at the same time. Well done. You crushed it. Love you both. And that was another episode. Until next time.
Thanks for having us.
Fitness is neat.
Bang, bang, boom.